So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast.
Hi, I'm Jay Allen from Mitro North and the host of the Add a Zero podcast. This week we're talking about being able to revealing some of the secrets about being able to pull a team together. What does that actually mean, Jay? What do you mean about pulling a team together and how do we know that they're not together? Well, there's two vital aspects that I want us to be able to share with you today about being able to ensure that the team that we've got are the right people in the business and that they're doing the right stuff in the right way that allows the business to continue to grow and evolve and move forward without us specifically needing to be able to continually manage each and every person. There's nothing worse than having a high churn rate of people in and through and back out the business by having the wrong people in the business doing the wrong things. And the impact that can have, not just in turnover and revenue, but also in morale and camaraderie, if nothing else, to be able to ensure that everyone on the bus is on the bus with us and driving to be able to achieve the success that we've set out to achieve. And it comes from two particular aspects. So let's look at both of them briefly and then let's dive into some of the detail within. The first of it comes from my time in the British Armed Forces. I spent my first 12 years in uniform for Queen and Country as a rapid deployment soldier within the British Army. I'm really proud of the service that I had and incredibly proud and grateful for all of the teachings I took from it with regards to the Army and what we were able to achieve. Now, don't get me wrong, as a veteran, I'm relatively biased, but it's relatively well known that the British Armed Forces are regarded as one of the most professional fighting forces in the world. Now, I can assure you that doesn't come from having the best kit and equipment or by having the mass amount of people. But it does come from an incredible training portfolio and training program that every single soldier goes through that helps to be able to build a bond of trust, of veterans, of soldiers who come together. That blood is thicker than water. No, it's not. Well, in actual fact, the brotherly blood that comes together with a common purpose to be able to serve our sovereign and the country to which we are involved, to the country to which we come from, is beyond reproach. The willingness to be able to put your life at risk for somebody else that perhaps that you'd never met before joining and wearing the same uniform, comes at a level that perhaps you've never seen or experienced in a civilian type business. So I'm going to come to it from that aspect of being able to build a bond so tight that people are willing to be able to step up above and beyond in order to be able to do what's necessary and needed to be able to help the business move forward. And then subsequently, I'm going to look at it from a civilian perspective and understand as to how you as a business owner can devise and evolve something that is so unique that you've got a string of CVs being flooding your desk on a regular basis of people wanting to come and work in your business, as opposed to the risk or challenge of losing a key member of staff and really struggling to be able to find a suitable replacement. So first of all, where did I get that from? Where does the British military get it from? How do we create such an incredibly tight-knit community that people are willing to literally put their life on the line for each other? Not just a family member, but somebody that's become so close that you're willing to be able to stake your life on them and their success. And it comes from leadership. It comes from understanding that if we are going to set a set of KPIs, of key performance indicators for other members of the team that we are going to measure other people's contribution against, then we also need to have a set of key performance indicators for us as a leader that they can rely on to ensure that in return for what they're willing to give, you're willing to give also. The good news is that I've already written a great blog on the 11 aspects of building a super team, how to be able to attract and retain a growing team of superheroes. And it gives a step-by-step guide on the 11 things that an employee is looking for in order to vote you super boss. So we have to ensure, first of all, that we are enacting everything that it is about what evolves the business and grows it and moves it forward. That we are encasing everything about us that is great and moving forward, that other people are attracted and motivated by, that wants to be on that bus. So if you haven't already done so, I'll put a link in the show notes to ensure that you've got access to the 11 things that it takes to become voted a superboss. Not just something that we've devised, but a study that was done by De Montfort University a few years ago now across more than 17,000 employees to understand why they voted where they work as the best place in the world to work. The next thing is to be able to understand a person's role and responsibility within the business. And this comes down to both our recruitment process and how we attract people to the business and how we onboard them during their probationary period. There's now a lot of evidence to support the impact and the level of support that somebody feels over the first 100 days of employment has a direct impact on their loyalty and productivity throughout the lifetime of their role within that business. What we do from appointing them for the first 100 days of their employment has a direct impact on their longevity of employment with us and their productivity. And understanding how to be able to onboard somebody well, to be able to ensure that they've got the right kit and equipment and training and support and guidance and resources in order to be able to do well in their role is key to them then feeling well enough supported to be able to give their all. And we've seen a lot of this through COVID and lockdown and the furlough period with regards to the great resignation as people were being invited and asked to come back into the employment post-lockdown. We were able to identify businesses that had a good probationary period had a far better and easier transaction of being able to invite employees back into working in the employment, back into the office, than those that had a struggled or challenged or broken probationary period, and the loyalty factor of an employee that was then subsequently saying, do you know what? I've rather enjoyed being at home. I want to work from home, and that objections to being back into a workplace environment. So there's some things to look at with regards to our own skills and styles as a leader, and understanding the things that are important to a good employee if they're going to give you more and more and more of their time, of their effort, their resource, their capability, but also about that probationary period and understanding that the first 100 days are critical to them feeling part of the team, that we're going to set people up for success as opposed to set people up for trying to catch them out. One of the things I want to share with you is something I learned from the Disney Institute, probably one of the top universities for teaching customer experience and customer service anywhere in the world. And one of the things I learned from Disney is that whilst they might have a job description, let's assume for the ease of this that they need a chef in one of their Disney resorts. So they put an advert out looking for a chef. And you're a current chef and you're dissatisfied with where you currently work, you're looking for a bigger, better, bolder challenge. You see this global brand looking for a chef and you decide to apply for the job. You go through all of the interview process, and today is the day that you've been appointed as chef, and it's your first day in work in Disney. One of the first things they will invite you to do is to tear up the job description that was advertised for the chef. The job description that you saw, that you applied to and went through the process of, on day one of the job, they invite you to do away with the entire job description, explaining that the only reason and time that they use a job description is externally, because you weren't looking for, when you were searching for a new job, a culinary superhero. You never typed into Indeed or whichever other job platform that you were looking on, culinary superhero jobs available. And therefore they don't use the title that you're subsequently going to be awarded, because they wouldn't have any applicants. But what they also say is that the job description is something that's left on day one. We don't want you to be able to say at any time in the future, yeah, but that's not my job. What they replace a job description with is a set of attitudes and behaviours. The same attitudes and behaviours for every single employee at every different level of management, all the way through the entire Disney company and brand of companies. A set of attitudes and behaviours that every single member of staff can be measured against to say, but are you doing it the Disney way? And by adopting a set of attitudes and behaviours that everyone is measured against, including yourself as the business owner, allows us to be able to create this cohesion of a team that's working together. I certainly saw it as a soldier within the British Army, not just within my own regiment, but serving alongside multiple other regiments and disciplines, both within the UK forces and working with NATO and United Nations with other countries' forces, as to the bond and band of brothers from somebody that lives the discipline rather than just dictates the discipline. So the other thing I want to share with you, we mentioned in a previous podcast about the size of business and whether you should run before you could walk and what's important. One of the other things that I want you to give considerations to is, as you start to build the team, it's important, and it becomes critically important as as we continue to grow the team, to be able to not only have a set of attitudes and behaviours, but also to have a set of values to which everyone in the business is aligned. A set of values that the business adheres to, that this is how we do business. Let me just quickly explain this, and then you can understand as to where this fits into you and your business, on what scale of business you're at, and what consideration you perhaps need to give to it. The vision for a business always comes from the business owner or owners, the top pinnacle of the business. The vision is, where do we see ourselves? What does success look like? Where are we heading? The vision is always a visionary statement about what it looks like as a successful business, and should come from the top of the business and is driven by everything that we do. The mission for a business is the steps that we're going to take, the measures that we're going to take that are tangible on how we know that we are performing towards the vision. The mission statement is how we're going to do things, the mechanisms, the operational mechanisms of measuring that we're making a contribution towards what we're trying to achieve as the vision. And the values are the behaviours in which we need to act upon in order to achieve the mission. Values, and a value statement, is the behaviours that we need to demonstrate within our business that keep us on track. So when you hear about a values statement, it's a declaration to the outside world and to every single employee within it, every stakeholder and shareholder, that these are core to the business. This is how we do business to enable us to be able to meet our mission and our missions to meet our vision. In My True North, we have 6 value statements, 6 things that we hold dear and core to how we do business. And the first of those is courage. How we demonstrate that is I want to ensure that through every interaction that you have with My True North and the Add a Zero podcast, that we do what's right, not necessarily always what's popular. We're willing to be able to step out from the norm and to be able to do the courageous things, to be able to push the needles, to be able to offer some challenging thoughts and ideas, to be able to challenge our clients on the things that they're currently doing based on the knowledge and experience we have from over 120,000 other SMEs. But the courage to do what's right rather than doing what's popular and going to get us the vanity matrix of lots of likes and favourites. The second of our core values is discipline. The willingness to be able to continue to do what's right. The doing what's right because it's the right thing to do and not because everyone's watching. The disciplines to see it through. The disciplines to be standing with somebody regardless of what and where and when and how. The disciplines to stay true to our values regardless of how much we're challenged by them or by others because we're stepping out of the norm. The third of our values is respect. Respect for our customer, respect for our competition, respect for our supply chain, respect for our company and our values and who we stand for, respect for our profession. It's where we were first awarded the Ethical Coaching Company from Smith & Williamson in 2017, and it's why ethics is at the very core of who we are and what we do. The respect to acknowledge that rather than saying, look, we've got this great Add a Zero program that completely transforms the way people do business and the outcome that they receive, that some people aren't ready yet to receive what it is that we have to offer. The willingness to be able to say no to potentially good opportunities, to say this doesn't align with who we are or what we do, or the respect of to being willing to be able to meet somebody where they are and help them to be able to move to where we know that they ought to be, as opposed to just standing in an ivory tower and saying, but once you get here, everything works. The respect for our customers, our supply chain, to be able to pay our invoices on time and ask that others do so also. The respect for our profession by being willing to be able to share best practice and to learn. Being honoured by being given a fellowship of the International Association of Coaching Professionals for my service to supporting the profession and moving forward. The respect to be able to share with others. The fourth of our values is integrity. Being willing to be able to stand up and speak out, perhaps for those who don't feel comfortable and are able to do so themselves. The integrity by standing up for what we believe in rather than turning a blind eye. By being willing to be able to call out bad practice. By being willing to be able to stand up and say, but that's not good or cool. To be willing to be able to challenge people on social media if we believe that what they are professing to isn't aligned with what we know to be true. Be willing to be unliked if necessary. To be unfollowed, to be blocked, to be willing to stand up for what's right and for what we believe in, even when challenged. The fifth of our values is loyalty. I'm incredibly proud of the core with whom I served, whose core motto was In Ardius Fidelis, a Latin terminology which simply translates through to faithful throughout adversity. When I work with a client, I work with them for wherever they're at, for as long as they need and benefit and value the help and support that we give, regardless of circumstances that they find themselves in. We've found clients with financial challenges and financial difficulties. We've found clients that have had some real personal challenges, that have challenged their abilities to be able to implement the things within the business. We've had clients with mental health and physical health challenges that we've adapted our ability and our way of coaching to support them in their hour of needs, to be able to help and understand what it is that it takes by walking a mile in their shoes in order to be able to know how better to tailor our support to their particular needs. And then finally, commitment. A commitment to continual learning. A commitment to being open to help and support and feedback, and to acknowledge that we don't know everything. Committing to our own development, the Kaizen philosophy of incremental improvement, and understanding that every day is a school day. Every feedback is good feedback. A commitment to being open, to being challenged ourselves for the things that we do, and being willing to continually to learn and develop and grow. What I want to get across to you today is building a team isn't just about being able to pay a high salary. In actual fact, the study that I referenced earlier from De Montfort University showed that when you get the other things in business right, once you've got a good set of values that people buy into, and a good set of attitudes and behaviours to which all members are then measured, that salary becomes less and less and less important, replaced by other non-financial things that you can put in place to be able to support the individuals to grow and evolve and develop. What they subsequently devised and concluded was that when everything else in business is correct and working well, that salary isn't even in the top 10 reasons why somebody else would vote for you to be the best in the world at where you are. It's only when we understand that values is core, attitudes and behaviours are how we deliver that, and a set of values that we can be measured by ourselves, that we can then profess to the world both externally and internally, that the chains of commerce are released and the cogs continue to grow and evolve and move forward. There's a lot to cover there, which is why I've put two great posts, blog posts, as links in the chats today for you to be able to go and look at our core values and what it means to be able to be working with My True North, but also that list of 11 things that you really need to give considerations to if you want to be considered by your existing and your growing team as a super boss. God bless, take care. I'll see you again next week.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Add a Zero podcast presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.